And yes, we are going to be live. Yeah, we are live. So over to you, Kiran sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, Paninder sir. Okay, for those who do not know me, my name is Kiran Kumar. I'm a regional mentor of change associated with ATL Innovation Mission, Niti Aayog, Government of India. And I've been conducting a lot of mentoring programs such as these. We have conducted boot camps and many other digital skilling programs, entrepreneurship related programs and things like that. And so this is day 2 of our 7-day training program on tackling ATL Marathon 2021. As you know, ATL Marathon 2021 is a national level innovation competition, which has been launched by ATL Innovation Mission recently. I mean, not so recently, it was launched in actually in November, and it's going to go on till March, first week of March. So March 6th is the deadline for submission. So pretty much you have more than 3 months, 3.5 months, in fact, to identify a problem, come up with a solution, innovate, and then build a prototype and submit it. So there's a whole host of things. So what you need to do is submit an innovation for this challenge. And students who get selected in the top 100 and top 300, a lot of new opportunities will open up for them. There's a student innovators program, student entrepreneurs program, and things like that, where you get an opportunity to work with some of the partners of ATL Innovation Mission, and they can help you take your ideas or innovations forward and even help you commercialize in some cases. So there's a lot of opportunities that will open up if you make it to the top entries. Okay, so if more doors have to open up for you, more opportunities have to open up for you, you need to give your best shot for this ATL Marathon. And my why we are doing this program is basically we want students to submit a winning entry. We have seen a lot of entries being submitted, but most of them don't fit the bill. That means students are submitted, they have not understood really what is the difference between idea, invention, and innovation. And that is that is why we are spending a lot of time today to talk about that. And I've already shared a video in the morning. You have a lot of content on the portal on day 2, and we are going to talk a little more about that now as well. So it's very important that you understand what is the difference between idea, invention, and innovation. Otherwise, many students I see, they are submitting just ideas. They're not submitting innovations at all. So there's no chance of getting selected or winning the marathon if you just submit an idea, right? And sometimes it's neither innovation nor an idea nor invention. So it's very important that we understand that distinction. Okay, and now let me open up that portal again. I'll share my screen and then I'll open up the portal and we will get started with today's session. Okay. Yeah. So can you see the screen? Paninder sir, can you give me confirmation? Can you see the screen? I hope you can see the screen. Okay, I see. Yes, sir. Okay, that's fantastic. Great. So welcome to day 2. Yesterday we covered mostly about the big picture about what is this ATL Marathon, what is this innovation competition, and things like that. And some of you are already, you're clear that you're going to participate in the ATL Marathon, and you probably have formed a team. There are many other students who haven't formed a team. That's perfectly fine. You still have time. And some students have ATL, some students don't have ATLs in their school. Irrespective of whether you're going to participate in this ATL Marathon, whether you have a team, don't have a team, whether you have an ATL or not, you can still participate in this training program, because this training program is not necessarily only for ATL Marathon, but it is going to teach you some very fundamental skills in life, which is how to tackle a problem. Okay, life is full of problems, life is full of challenges, some small, some medium, some big. So if you learn the art of problem solving, you can tackle anything in your life with ease, right? And you can also innovate. Innovation doesn't have to be something restricted to only some technology or things like that, because whenever you encounter a problem, you also need to solve it. When you solve it, it can be innovative solution. and it can be unique. It can be a novel solution that other people haven't thought about it, and it becomes very interesting. And life will be very enjoyable when you learn this process of problem solving and innovation. You will become very creative, and you will start enjoying your life. That's like flowering, right? It's really fantastic. You will feel good about it when you're solving a problem, when you're innovating something, you're creating something new, and other people appreciate your work. And maybe you sell a product, and other people buy it from you. It's a fantastic feeling. So whatever it is, wherever you are, so learn the skills. This is very important. And today we are going to focus something on to understand some of the basic things, and also the process of innovation, which we call as design thinking. Okay, so let's get started. So first question is, in fact, yesterday we talked about what are the pitfalls of, let me go back to that page and show you first what we, at the very end of the page, right? We looked at page 1, very end of it. We talked about a few things. Let's go here. Where are they? Here, right? What are the pitfalls to avoid in submitting your entry to ATL Marathon? These are basically what are the common mistakes. We talked about the time and efforts. We talked about ideas versus innovations, research, lack of research, or submitting the first idea, or dropping the idea too soon, right? And the idea being not innovative, or the prototype is not in line with your problem statement, and things like that. We talked about many of these issues yesterday. We are going to start exactly from there. But now we are going to look at what does it take to submit an innovative winning entry to ATL Marathon, right? If you look at the tagline of ATL Marathon, like we did yesterday, there are 4 things. One is research, ideate, innovate, and implement. Okay, so there are 4 things that we need to necessarily do as part of submitting our entry to this ATL Marathon. Otherwise, it will not be considered as an innovation. Okay, so you not only understand and research and understand the problem statement, but also you need to look at multiple ways to solve that problem. Once you are clear about the problem, you also need to look at multiple ways. In your research document, whatever you submit, finally, you need to show that you have looked at multiple alternatives and you have compared them and you found one better over the others, and that is what you have prototyped. You need to show all these details. If you just show your prototype and just put up a video, the jury members will not understand how you get to this conclusion, why you think this is a better solution. So you need to demonstrate everything. Have you conducted the research? What are the solutions that you looked at? Which one is better? And how did you come up with an innovative solution? How did you build it? What are the feedback that you have received from users? All these aspects had to be shown in your final documentation. That's very important. So now what is research, first of all? So we have been using this term called research. Research is nothing but trying to gather more information. When you have some, when you want, basically, when we say that you are going to participate in this ATL Marathon, you have been given 8 problem statements that we talked about yesterday. And these problem statements are very high level, right? We have 2 in health and nutrition, 2 in education and transport, and then we had something about financial inclusions, things like that, right? And each of these problem statements, we need to go deeper and understand what those things mean. And the other way to look at is when we observe in our own community, we may discover some problems. So we need to go deeper and understand what those problems are, what those challenges are. Maybe some people are facing some issues, then you need to go deeper. Maybe you need to talk to them. You need to find out, maybe you need to experience things yourself. Maybe sit in a wheelchair and experience things yourself. Or maybe if you're trying to design a solution for a blind man, maybe you need to blindfold yourself, put something up and go with a cane, walking stick, and see how difficult it is without bumping into something or falling down. And then you'll really experience what the other blind person is experiencing, right? So that is the best way to experience. So research involves all of these. Research also involves going and finding some information that is already made available by other people. Maybe there are some researchers who have already gone and done some research in certain areas like poverty or hunger or malnutrition, or maybe about climate change. There are a lot of people working around the world. They have already prepared lots of documents and research reports and things like that. So we need to go and understand what other people have done. Why we need to do that? Because it will save us time. If we had to go and discover things for ourselves, everything firsthand, it's going to take a lot of time. Instead of that, we can rely on what other people have done, maybe experts have done in those areas, and we can readily get that information. Wherever we don't have ready information, we can always go and try and find it ourselves. So there are basically two ways of conducting research. One is called primary research, another is called secondary research, depending on how you gather the information. Primary research is all about gathering the information firsthand. That means you go and observe things. You go and see for yourself how things are out there in your community or in your neighborhood, and you observe people, you observe situations, you observe scenarios, and you make sense of those, you analyze those situations, and then you discover that, oh, there are certain challenges. Maybe there are no street lights in your neighborhood. That becomes a challenge for people who have to walk in the dark. Maybe there is a manhole cover that is open and there's no light and somebody may fall into it. So there are all these challenges that you might discover. Or some areas are pretty unsafe for people to walk in the dark. Or maybe there are areas where the accidents are frequent. So there can be a lot of challenges when you start observing things. When you observe, you can also talk to people and find out how the problem has affected them. Maybe if somebody comes home late and there are no lights and they feel unsafe walking on those roads, you can talk to them and understand what their fears or anxieties are. So that's another way to conduct your research. Or you go and experience, you walk yourself on that road and see what it feels like, what kind of anxiety you will develop in the process. And so there are a lot of ways in which you can do that. And of course, you can always go to Google. That is a secondary research. In secondary research, we actually go and instead of directly interacting and trying to understand, we rely on what other people have done, as I said earlier. That is called the secondary research. In secondary research, you go to Google, you go to some websites, you gather some information, you search for something, and what other people have done, you can get that information and you can make use of it. And this will help you get greater knowledge or insights about the problem that you're trying to tackle. Okay, any of those 8 problem statements that marathon has, or anything more also. Okay, so this is how you do research. Most students I see, they don't do research at all, or they do very superficial research. So unless you go deep, you will not be able to submit a winning entry. So the question I have for you is, have you undertaken primary and secondary research? Have you done that so far? If not, you need to do that. I've already given a lot of references. If you go here in the problem statements, let me go to day 1 page here. I've already given a lot of documents for you to read up. If you go to the education, there are 2 problem statements, right? Below the problem statements, I have given pointers to many digital, research reports. If you click on this, it will actually take you to one of the research report documents. So let's see what this research report has. See, digital education in India. This research report has been prepared by Ministry of Human Resource Development, Government of India. It comes directly from the government. It was prepared in June 2020, and it's June 2020 is fine. 1 year, 1.5 years old research reports are perfectly fine. And it gives you on a state-by-state basis what is the state of digital education in India, especially since the pandemic struck, everything education has gone online. And what are those challenges that people are facing in different states and different parts of the country. So you can go through this and read it up, okay? So there's a lot of information here. So similarly, there are many other research reports, even in energy and transportation, I have given research reports, a couple of pointers. There are even articles, road accidents in India. Yesterday, I think one of the students was talking about coming up with a solution for road accidents. So he can definitely look at this research report, for example. You click on this and it gives you another research report, which will give you what is the real challenge of accidents in India, how many accidents happen per year, how many people die, how many people are injured, and what are the consequences of I'm getting some call. Okay. Oh. Okay, can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes, sir,
So
we
this
can
is a
hear you,
research.
sir. Yes, sir, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, okay. My phone got a call in between and it mutes my Zoom. It muted my Zoom, so I disconnected it. Okay. So this is a road accidents in India research report. You can go through this research report. This is again from the Government of India, Ministry of Transport and Highways. Unless you go through this and you read up some information, you will not understand what are those real problems. Okay, so you don't have to read the entire report, but just skim through it and see what are the real challenges. Okay, so if you just look at this, it says with pedestrians accounting for 17% of those killed. Okay, 17% of the people who die in accidents are pedestrians, people walking on the roads or on the side of the roads. Two-wheelers account for 37% of the accidents, and cars, jeeps, and taxis contribute 16% of the accidents. Right? So there's a lot of these information like this. So what you can do is you can take these numbers and you can put it in your document saying that, see, this is the magnitude of the problem. I'm trying to solve a big problem. So that is how you need to project, saying that if I solve this problem, it can possibly save the lives of millions of people, or maybe at least lakhs of people, if not millions. So, but you need to quantify. You can't just say it will be lakhs of people, millions of people. You need to say, okay, 34% of two-wheelers die in accidents. And if you look at the total number of two-wheelers in India, there are so many millions, and out of which 34% accounts for so much of number. And I can actually save so many people's lives. If you give numbers, that has more value rather than saying, okay, I'm going to save everybody's life. No, it's not everybody's life. We have 1.4 billion people in India. You cannot save everybody's life, and everybody's life is not in danger. But the life of those two-wheelers or the cars and taxis and whatever, those people who get into accidents, you can solve their, and you need to have numbers for them. So that's exactly what you need to get from these articles and research reports. Okay. Now let's go back. So we have understood what is research, right? So if there are any questions, just put it on the chat window, and Fanindra sir, you can stop me and ask me one or two questions, and then we can proceed to the next point. So while the questions are coming, I'll just talk about one more aspect. The second, in the tagline, the second point is about ideation. It says ideate. What does ideate mean? Ideation, it's also, the term is called ideation. Ideation means basically you need to look for basically it's a process of coming up with ideas. Ideation is a process of coming up with ideas, new ideas. So let's say you have already done your research and you're clear about what is the problem that you're trying to solve. You might say, I'm going to address the two-wheeler accidents in my state or in my community or wherever, and then so many people are getting killed every year, and I'm going to address this problem. But then how are you going to address it? The first idea that comes to mind is not necessarily the biggest or the greatest idea. Normally, I see a lot of students, first idea they come up with, they think that's the best idea. Not necessarily true. That is not how innovation works, because innovation is something that you build for others, not for necessarily for yourself. Other people have to value what you're providing them. You may come with a fancy stuff, a fancy innovation, fancy solution. That solution may be expensive for them. If it is expensive, they're not going to use it. If it is going to be difficult to use it, they're not going to use it, right? So if it has to be useful for other people, then you have to think like how they think, what they value. Let's say if I were to ask you to buy a TV which costs 10 lakh rupees, would you be willing to put so much money on a TV for your home? I have the greatest TV on earth. I'm selling it to you. It costs only 10 lakh rupees. Will you buy it? How many people are willing to buy this TV for 10 lakh rupees? Anybody? You can put your thumbs up, or you can put it in the chat window. If you are willing to buy a TV for 10 lakh rupees, which is like any other TV, or maybe a little more fancier. That's all. So no, I see the answers like no, you would not buy it. That means the companies that are manufacturing these TVs are not innovating for themselves. They're innovating for others, for us, for consumers, for customers, right? That is how you need to think. You're not going to build something for your own satisfaction. If it is for your own satisfaction, you can be happy with your ideas, or you can actually do some little, invention. Scientists do invention, right? Because they're happy with their invention. They're not really interested in selling it to others. They're not necessarily all scientists are interested in making money or building a business and things like that. For them, what matters is I have come up with something new, and they're happy with that. And what business people will do is they will go to the scientists or some research organizations, and they'll say, you guys have done great research, you have come up with a great invention, please give it to us, we will pay you so much of money, but you give it to us, we will take this invention and we will make it into an innovation, and we will build a product or service and we sell it in the market and we make money. And that is how they team up with scientists. And the scientists will say, okay, give me so much of money and you take this invention and you go do whatever you want. Or maybe they will have a percentage share. The businessman says, okay, I'm going to sell 1,000 units of this. For every unit that I sell, I'll give you 10 rupees or maybe 100 rupees, whatever. And then the scientist is also happy, the businessman is also happy. Both of them make money, right? So that is how things happen. The scientist is more probably interested in invention, whereas the businessman is interested in innovation. Today, yes, of course, both are really important, but we are talking about innovation competition here. So that means you need to focus and even think like how to make it useful. A businessman always thinks of not necessarily making money for himself or herself, but a businessman or woman will also see how to add value to other people in the society, right? So if you want to add value to people, make others' lives convenient and comfortable, you definitely have to take that invention and convert it into innovation and make it useful to other people. Then that means you also have to make it affordable. It should not be too expensive. If it is too expensive, people will not buy it, right? And if it doesn't work, nobody will buy it. And it should be good in quality, it should be reasonable in cost, and it should do whatever you tell them to do. It should be better than some of the other products. Otherwise, why will they buy something from you? They will as well go to somebody else, some other competitor who sells a better product than you. So that means your innovation has to have all these qualities. It should have quality, it should be of reasonable cost, it should do better than others, maybe it should have something unique and novel, new features, track the customers. Otherwise, customer will say, why should I come to you? There's already other product. I can go to them. Maybe they're a little more expensive, but I can get better quality products from them, right? So why should they come to you? So that means before you start prototyping, you need to think, what are the different solutions that I can come up with? So is this the best solution? Is this the solution that does it address the problem sufficiently, effectively? Is it reasonable cost? There are many factors that you need to consider. But before that, you need to first generate a lot of ideas. If you don't have a lot of ideas, then you cannot select and shortlist a few of them for prototyping. So first is to go out and come up with lots of ideas, crazy ideas, stupid ideas, complex ideas, silly ideas, simple ideas. Every type of idea you should generate. That is what we do in ideation. So if you don't generate a lot of ideas, you have very little ideas to work with, then it may not fly. Your innovation may not fly. Nobody's going to buy from you. That's what is going to happen. Okay. So the technique that we generally use for ideation is we form teams and we start debating and discussing and brainstorming. We call this as a brainstorming technique. In brainstorming, we have a team of people, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people. We sit and discuss, and everybody brings their own ideas of how to solve the problem. And very soon we will have multiple ideas that are generated. And one person says, I have this idea, and he or she shares the idea, and another person shares another idea, and the third person says, why not we combine both these ideas and it will become even better idea, right? That is how ideas and new ideas are born. So you need to have some people around you. Otherwise, if you if you're alone, individual, you cannot generate many ideas. That is why ATL Marathon requires you to work as a team, not individually. As individually, you may be brilliant, but your brilliance also has a limit, because the way you look at life, you look at the problem, maybe one way of looking at it or a few ways of looking at it. But when you have multiple people, everybody looks from different perspectives, and they can generate different kind of ideas, and final ideas that you get may be a lot more valuable, and out of which you can say, okay, out of 10 ideas we generated, we will shoot down 7 ideas and we'll concentrate on only those 3 good ideas, the best ideas, and out of which you may finally select one and say, I'm going to build this prototype of this, the best idea you're going to prototype. But first, you need to generate ideas. You need to go through the ideation process. You need to brainstorm, and that's how you do this exercise. If you are working individually, it's very difficult to do this ideation because you will get stuck. Okay, so join together and form teams and start generating ideas. Okay, that's what you need to do. And finally, you can pick one idea. So don't be satisfied with the first idea that comes to your mind. That may not necessarily be the best one. Always, when you finally select your ideas, you need to look for simplicity of the idea, less complex. It should solve the problem well, and it should be reasonably. It should not be too expensive. So you need to have some criteria like this. Otherwise, nobody's going to buy your product. I'll ask you one other basic thing. Why are you coming out with all these ideas, and why are you submitting these ideas or innovations for ATL Marathon? Do you really want your idea to sell in the market? Do you want people to use it, or you're just doing it for your own self-satisfaction? So what is your answer? For your self-satisfaction, or do you want to add value to people? Can you put it in the chat window? What is your answer to this question? Your participation in the ATL Marathon, is it for your own satisfaction, or do you want to add value to other people? Okay, so I said to add value to people both. Okay, that's fantastic. Great. Value to others. Great, fantastic. Yes, of course, you should also enjoy what you're doing. If you don't like what you're doing, you cannot add value to other people, right? If I'm conducting this mentoring session, I should be enjoying it. But if I'm thinking, oh my God, my 4 to 5 evening session is taken up by all these mentoring sessions, and I don't like coming here, then I cannot do a good job of convincing you to participate in this training session, right? And so it will be a failure. So I need to enjoy it myself, and I also need to add value to you, and you should also enjoy it in the process. When both parties feel good, then a lot of good things happen in the world. That is how it should be. So it should be for both, for myself as for others, and for you as well as for me. It should be a win-win situation. Okay, so that is how we will do it. So we are going to add value to people, and we are going to add value to ourselves also. It normally so happens that when you add value to other people, you will receive something in return that will give you value to you also. That is how I look at things. Add value to people, and then you will receive something in return. Don't first look at what do I gain from this. If I only look at what do I gain, then you will not have the mindset to add value to other people, right? So don't worry about yourself. You will get what you need to get, but you try to add value to people. That is what innovation is all about. Okay, so that is what ideation we talked about so far. Now let's understand another term between idea and innovation. I think this is the most hotly contested thing. Today, there are a lot of ideas. Everybody has ideas, but very few innovations come out. Okay, out of maybe millions of ideas, only a few innovations really happen. Everybody has ideas, but why not everybody is an innovator? Because we don't take that extra effort of working beyond our ideas and going all the way. First of all, what is idea? Idea is just your thought, whatever your mind generates. It's a creative act of your brain, or it's something, a random idea that you get in your brain, or it's basically your thought. It's just a thought. That's it. It may be a vague thought initially, but if you keep concentrating on thought, that thought grows bigger and bigger, and you give more energy to it, and it becomes more and more clear. But an idea is just an idea. Idea doesn't have to be necessarily an innovation. It will, by default, it may not always be an innovation, because I can have an idea that I'll be the most powerful guy in this world, but or I can have any fancy that I will go to moon tomorrow. That's an idea that I have, or I can think of anything. I mean, my mind is unlimited. It can think of any fancy thing, any fanciful thing. It's an imagination. I can imagine anything. That's what an idea is. It's your imagination. If you just stop at imagination, and if you submit your imagination, nobody values it, because everybody has imagination capability today. Nobody is asking you how good you are in your imagination. At least ATL Marathon is not necessarily asking you how good is your imagination, but they want you to take your imagination or your idea further and develop it into something tangible. When I say tangible, it means innovation. And innovation, we need to understand what is innovation. First of all, an innovation is something for which the innovation ultimately can be a prototype, it can be a product, it can be a service, it can be some solution, whatever form it may take. Ultimately, that innovation has to add value to somebody, or at least there should be a need for it. First of all, the first and foremost thing is there should be a need for it. Okay, so if I'm going to come up with some robot, let's say, why is that robot required? So invariably, children and students will say, "Sir, I want to build a robot." But what is that robot for? What does it do? What is it used for? I mean, what problem does it solve? That's the first question I always ask. So you need to be clear, what is that problem or need or desire or want or challenge that your robot is going to address. That is called desirability. Okay, if you see this diagram here, there are three things that an innovation is made up of. One is called desirability, or it should be desired by human beings. Unless somebody wants it, somebody has a need for it, somebody has a problem and they want it, whatever you come up with will be of no use. To understand this part, you're going to do a lot of research to understand the human aspects of it. Why somebody wants it, what kind of problem they have, how can you solve it? All these things you need to understand. So this is 1/3 of the part of the innovation. The second is feasibility. Feasibility means whether it is possible to build it. We talked about it yesterday also. Some of you have some fantastic ideas. Maybe there is a need for it also. But do you know how to build it? If you don't know how to build it, that means it may not be feasible. At least for you, it is not feasible, right? You don't know how to build it. If it is not feasible, then again, it cannot be built. Your prototype will not be, you'll not be able to build your prototype. You may have a great idea, you've done your research, everything is great, but you don't know how to build it, you don't have the skills for it, or it may be too complex for you to build it. Then it's again, you cannot build your prototype. And even let's say you build your prototype, will it be useful for other people? Of course, there may be a need for it, but if your solution is too complex, or if it is too expensive, then people will not buy it. That means as a business, you cannot sell it. If I make it 10 lakh rupee TV, very few people will buy it in the market. Majority of the people are middle class people, they will not be able to afford it, right? So they, as a business, you cannot make money if you make your products or your innovation very expensive. Compared to the number of people who travel by bus and trains, look at the number of people who travel by air, by planes. That will be significantly lower than the number of people who travel by buses and trains, because buses and trains are a lot more cheaper compared to a flight ticket, right? If I were to go from my place, which is where I live in Bangalore, and if I had to go to Delhi today, one-way ticket may cost me like 10,000 rupees up, and maybe I had to spend 15 to 20,000 or more for a two-way round trip. Sometimes more, sometimes less. But if I were to take a train, it can be lot more cheaper to go from Bangalore to Delhi and come back from Delhi to Bangalore. It will be a lot more cheaper. So the mode of transport you use, ultimately the success or failure of it depends entirely on how you make it affordable. And not only affordable, you also have to think of many things. How are you going to make it available to people? How can they buy it? If it is only available in few places, but it's not available in most of the other places, again, you cannot buy it. Or let's say after you sell your product, if people cannot go and get some service for it, let's say you buy a fancy new phone from China, and let's say you buy the phone, but after 2 months or 3 months, it breaks down and you need to go get it serviced. You need to go find a repair shop or a service center. And if there's no service center, will you buy that product? No, because you will be worried if the product were to go bad, what will happen? Then most people will not buy it. So there are many things that you need to consider when you actually innovate. But I would say, as a school children, you don't worry too much about the business right now. At least focus more on the desirability and the feasibility aspect. If these two are there, we can find some way to make it viable, or as a business, we can figure out how to make it successful in the business. So if you're not able to think in terms of business, don't worry, or at least make it. Technically, you should be able to build a prototype, and it should be desirable. At least these two factors you should really think through. If you are not able to, if you don't define your problem clearly, if you don't do research, your desirability is not understood well. And if you don't know how to build it, you don't have the technology skills or the prototyping skills or whatever, again, you cannot build it. Feasibility is gone. So your innovation will not be, it will not be an innovation. It'll be just some research report, or it may be just an idea. It'll just remain an idea. It will not go further. Okay, let's take a quick break and I'll take some questions now. Phanindra sir. Hello. Okay, let me open the chat window and see. I'm not able to see if Phanindra sir is there in the call. Okay, I'm just coming. Okay, let's see. There are lots of chat. Okay. So are there any questions? I don't see any questions. A lot of comments. Does trial and error include in research? Yes. I mean, everything goes through trial and error. Okay. Is Phanindra sir there on the call? Is Leonambika ma'am there on the call? Okay, I can't hear either of them. Okay, just park your ideas. Let me quickly finish off. Okay, Leonambika ma'am says unable to unmute myself. Okay, ma'am, no issues. So if you just hold on to your questions, let me cover some more ground and then we will take your questions. Okay. No issues. So we'll come back to that. Now, just let's look at one example here. You have an idea, let's say this is you, and you have a great idea, and maybe you have observed that a lot of furniture in your home is gathering dust frequently, and you want to find a solution for it. Okay, so the furniture could be your chairs, tables, sofas, whatever, anything that you have in your home. It could be wooden or metal or plastic, whatever kind of furniture you have. Everything gathers dust, right? How is the best way to clean it? Of course, there are many ways to clean it, but let's say you are looking at some solution which can make it very efficient and very easy to use and things like that. But if you don't know how to build it, and if you don't know what is the technology to use, you will not be able to build it. Your idea will just remain an idea. Or let's say you have looked at many solution alternatives, you have done your ideation, and maybe you came across this technology called a vacuum pump. A vacuum pump is one which is a small machine. Instead of water pump, a water pump, what it does, it takes water from one side and it gives out water from the other side. Maybe water pump is generally used for pushing water from one level to another level, for example, from a lower level to a higher level and things like that. Higher to lower, water can easily flow because of gravity. But if you want to push water from a lower level to higher level, you definitely need a water pump. Similarly, there are air pumps. What they do is they take air from one side and push it through the other side. This is the basic principle of a vacuum pump. It can suck air from one end on the left end and give out the air from the other end. Okay, so if you know this technology and you have access to this vacuum pump with you, then maybe you can build a innovation like this. Can you see this innovation on the right side picture? This is basically a vacuum cleaner. It's not a vacuum cleaner that cleans your floor, but a vacuum cleaner that can probably clean your furniture. Maybe in your kitchen or in your dining table or in your sofa or in a teapot or whatever. It can clean up all the dust or whatever things that are there. You want to clean up all the mess on the table, you can easily clean it up. For this, you need to know this technology. If you don't know this technology, you will not be able to build it, right? So this is considered as an innovation. Maybe it's a new and novel way of cleaning your furniture. Of course, you can always wipe it with a cloth, a damp cloth or a dry cloth, and you can always clean it. That's another way to do it. But a cloth, what generally happens is the dust still sticks to the cloth, and all the dust, when you wipe it on a new furniture, the dust may go from this furniture to the other furniture. It may not be the most effective way to clean it with a cloth or maybe a sponge or some other mechanism. A vacuum cleaner will just suck all the dust and put it into a dustbin. So it is much more effective in clearing and cleaning even smaller dust as well. But to come up with this innovation, you need to know this technology. And many a times, students are not even here. They're stuck here at the idea stage. They only describe their solution, but they don't know how to build it. They don't know how to build it. They cannot come up with a prototype of this device. Then it is not an innovation. At least if you build this, people will buy it because they see the value in it. It can clean up their furniture much more efficiently. If they can find value in it, they'll definitely buy it. The business viability is definitely there, or we can always figure out how to sell it in the market. But technical feasibility has to be there, and your desirability, you have to think of whether people will need this. Yes, people will need these kind of things. Not everybody will need it. Some people prefer to clean it with a cloth. Some people with some other duster and things like that. They don't want to spend a lot of money. Maybe this kind of device will cost you maybe 2,000 or 3,000 or even 5,000 rupees. Not everybody will be willing to afford 5,000 rupees for a furniture cleaner. But there is a market. There are people who will buy things like this, and you can always sell it to them. So it's always in business, it's always the market. Which market are we going to target? Are we going to market this to poor people, to lower middle class people, upper middle class people, or to rich people and things like that? So you can always find, for example, Apple iPhones are very expensive phones. Not everybody can afford it. There are people who want to buy, they want to spend 50, 60, 1 lakh rupees to buy an Apple iPhone, but not everybody would want to do that. They will prefer to go with an Android phone, for example, which are much cheaper. So this is how innovation is. Either you stop here at idea stage, or if you know how to build it, you can use a technology like this and ultimately build a prototype which has value to people and they buy it. So you always need to think all three of them. Is it useful to people? And do I know the technology, how to build it? And will people buy it? Will they value it and will they buy it? So if all the three are satisfied, then it becomes an innovation, not otherwise. Okay. So I hope I made this clear now. And there's a video also. I shared this in the WhatsApp group. If you have not watched it, please watch it. Okay. And there are different types of innovations also. You need to be aware that innovation is not necessarily a product like that vacuum cleaner. A smartwatch is also a product. It's a product innovation. But there can also be design innovations. The same table or furniture, if you design it in a totally different way, it has better aesthetics, better looks, better maybe a different way to use it. It can be a design innovation. So design innovation doesn't have to be, it can be the same product, maybe the same watch, you can design it in a different way, it has different looks. Instead of wearing it on your wrist, maybe you can make it, put it on a pendant and things like that, on which you can wear it on your neck or maybe some other way. So you may or may not call it as a watch, but you may call it something else. So you design it in different way, it becomes a design innovation. Or it could be a service innovation also. For example, Byju's, all of you are familiar with Byju's. Byju's is the online schooling. There are many other online schooling. There are app-based schooling today nowadays. They offer a service. It's an innovative service, right? The traditional schooling is all going to the classroom and learning from there. But Byju's, I mean, even before the pandemic, they were already in business, and everything happens through their website and app, and students can learn directly from teachers who are teaching online. So this is called as a service innovation. There's no physical product. It's not like a vacuum cleaner or a wristwatch or an iPod or something like that. You, whatever app you, phone you already have, you install an app, Byju's app, and you pay them money, and they will make the service available to you, and you can listen in and you can do your classes right from your app. Or it could be an experience innovation. Look at the WhatsApp payment kind of things, where the WhatsApp payments allows you to make payments right from your WhatsApp. You can send money to your friend or to another contact on your WhatsApp very easily. This is called as an experience innovation. It brings a totally different way of experiencing a service or a product, or it provides you some convenience. This is called experience innovation. And process innovation. Nowadays, mostly businesses use this kind of, organizations use process innovation, in which maybe in the earlier days, when you called up, let's say a Vodafone or an Airtel or Reliance, they would pick up your call and they would answer, somebody would answer in the call center, and you would ask them, what is my monthly bill and things like that, they would respond. Nowadays, they have something called as a chatbot, which has completely replaced the human beings there. The chatbot will actually answer your question. So this is a sort of a process innovation in which they completely changed one way of doing things with another way of doing things. And the way you communicate with the business also is very different. Instead of making a phone call, you just have a chat with the chatbot. It's a different process, different way of doing things. That's a process innovation. Or there's a business model innovation, in which I'll give you the example of Ola or Uber, in which Ola or Uber is basically, all of you are familiar with a taxi service, right? You have an app-based app, and you book a cab, and the cab comes to your doorstep, picks you up, and it takes you wherever you want to go and drops you. Before Ola and Uber came, taxis it was very difficult to hire taxis. They would not come for short distance commute within the city. They were available only on a 4 hours or 8 hours basis. You could not take just a half an hour ride. But after this Ola and Uber came, what they did was they just tied up with a lot of taxi operators, and they said, okay, you be ready to even give half an hour rides or 1 hour rides within a city, and we will pay you for and we will get you business. So completely they changed the way taxis operate. And so it's the same taxi, taxis are not different, but the way taxi operates, how they make money, that was changed by this business model innovation. So this is a different kind of innovation. So you need to decide what kind of innovation you're going to come up with. There are so many different ways. Don't think only of product innovation. There are 5 other innovations. In fact, there are many more types of innovations. There are only a few I have picked up, which you can easily understand, but there's a lot more to it. Okay. And I'm running out of time now. So there are other types of innovations also called sustaining innovations, disruptive, radical, and incremental innovations are also there. Okay. So I would encourage you to go through these examples. I'll skip this in the interest of time. I have already given examples here. Let's also look at the prototyping part of it. In the prototyping part of, so the last part of the tagline says implement, right? In implement, you need to build the prototype. There are different ways to build a prototype. You can build a dummy model also, like something like this, like a cardboard model. This is also a prototype. Or it could build a physical working prototype, something like this. Or it could be a virtual representation. It could be an animation or a video, or it could be even a 3D model, something which is like an animation or 3D model. Or it could be an online working prototype, like a mobile app, for example. You could build different kinds of prototypes. But ATL Innovation Mission wants you to build a working prototype. That means dummy model is out. You need to show that it works, but your model can be virtual or physical. So I've given some tips for you to look at. Okay, make sure that you either select to build a virtual prototype or a physical prototype, and make sure that you have the necessary prototyping resource materials, and make sure that you validate all your assumptions before you start building. And you should also have the skills. Don't try to build a prototype if you don't have the necessary skills. Don't assume that, okay, I will be able to build. No, it's not like that. Always build with the skills that you currently have, or with something that you can acquire in the next few days only, because time is limited. In the next 4 to 5 weeks that you have, even if you take 1 month, 2 months, you may not be able to acquire certain skills. So those kind of skills which you don't have, you should not even try to attempt those kind of prototypes. Try to build a prototype in with the skills that you currently have, mostly currently that you currently have. Okay, and make sure that whatever you build is able to demonstrate desirability, feasibility, and at least these two, and if possible, viability of your innovation also. At least these two should be very clear. Who the users are, what is the need that your prototype addresses, and it should be possible to build the prototype with the skills that you have. Then viability part of it is more on the business side of things. To some extent, you can come up with some ideas on how you can sell it. So to do all of these, we have a process called design thinking. Okay, design thinking already encapsulates all of these: research, ideation, prototyping. Everything comes in this design thinking process. Its process means it's a step-by-step way of innovating or problem solving. The term is called design thinking. And let me quickly run through that. So I'm going to skip these videos. I've already shared these videos earlier. I've shared this video, and here is an example of an apple tree video. You can go through that also. Okay, I'll just talk about these 5 steps. So the 5 steps in design thinking are empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. So if you go through these 5 steps, you will be able to start from understanding the problem, understanding who the users are, what are their problems, what are the challenges, what are their desires, wants, needs, pains, everything you can understand and empathize. Out of many things that you empathize, you might say, okay, I'm going to pick one problem of one user and I'm going to work on that idea or on that particular problem. Then once you have defined the problem, then you ideate. When you say ideate, you look at multiple ways to solve that problem. That is step number 3 in design thinking. And finally, you come up with many ideas and you shortlist one idea out of many ideas which you think is the best and the most promising idea that can be implemented to solve this problem. And finally, you build a prototype of it. You build a prototype, either virtual prototype or a physical prototype, and then you finally test it. When you say test it, it's not just you test it yourself. You need to give it to somebody, some users who can actually see it, or you can show it to them and they give you some feedback. And using that feedback, you can either go and improve your prototype, or you can ideate some more and come up with a better solution, or maybe you need to redefine your problem statement based on the feedback you've got. or you might have to go back and start from scratch, empathize afresh, and start all over again. That is how it happens. At least for the marathon, you should have gone through at least uh, one journey like this, from empathize, define, ideate, prototype to test. If you have not gone through this entire journey, then it's not going to be an innovation, because you need to go through empathize. This is where you do the research part, and this is where you're going to clearly define, and this is where you do the ideation part, and this is where you're going to actually build it, whether virtual or physical prototypes that you're going to build, and finally test that prototype. Okay. So please go through this and understand in a little more details. There are more slide decks here from ATL Innovation Mission. So there are lots of examples on how design thinking works. In the next 5 days, I'm going to run you through the design thinking process in great depth. Every day we will learn something. In fact, in the next 5 days, one day we are going to do empathize, another day we are going to define, another day we are going to ideate, prototype, and test. Not exactly the same buckets, but there'll be some overlaps between the dates. Next 5 days, we will cover all these 5 steps with the help of an example. So I want to get to that example. Okay, before that, there's an activity also. If you want to do this activity, please do that. I've given you an example of an electrical cord, extension cord, and this is an activity to test your observation, how much you observe about something. So if you observe this, what did you observe? What did you like about it? What do you think are the problems and challenges, and what can be improved? So if you start looking at objects around you in your own home, you may be able to identify many things. Let's say you take an umbrella here, an umbrella in your home, and see what is good in it, what is not so good in it, what are the limitations, what are the problems you're using an umbrella. Or school bag. What is your observation about a school bag? What is good about your school bag? What is the limitation of your school bag? What can be improved in your school bag? Then you can start innovating. This is how you start looking at existing products and come up with better ways to make them a better product. Or it could be an earphone or a chair or a wall clock. An earphone generally gets tangled with those wires, messy wires, right? So a chair may be comfortable or uncomfortable to sit. Wall clock also may have some challenges. So just look at many things in your home, and they will be able to give you some ideas on how you can improve it. And this is the last part of today's discussion. I will just take the next 3-4 minutes and wrap it up, and we can take any questions after this. So in the next 5 days, we are going to take up one example to do the problem solving using design thinking approach. Okay. Many of you go to school, at least you are going to school before this pandemic. Now, I don't know how many of you go to physical schools. Many of you might have switched to online schooling. But how many of you had blackboards in your school? I'm sure that in many of you in the cities, you would be using whiteboards. But are there any students who have blackboards in their schools? Just put your, you can say yes, or if you have a, okay, Alia Gupta says me, yes, many of you have blackboards in your school. Okay, so if you have blackboards, okay, many of you have blackboards. And does your teacher use a chalk to write on the blackboard? Okay, some of you have green boards as well. Okay, so if your teacher uses chalk to write on the blackboard, and when the teacher erases the blackboard, a lot of dust particles arise. You are familiar with that? So there's a lot of dust that comes out, chalk dust. And whoever sits in the front benches, they suffer the most. I'm sure you all understand that those who have blackboards in your school classroom, when the teacher wipes the blackboard, a lot of dust spreads. And sometimes the teacher takes that duster out of the classroom, and then he or she bangs it a couple of times to throw away a lot of dust outside. And then he or she brings it and again wipes it. But even then, there are a lot of chalk dust. And even on the floor, you find a lot of chalk dust. I'm sure many of you can empathize with this situation. Even if you have never seen a blackboard or a chalkboard, don't worry, you will be able to, if you just go to YouTube, you will see what kind of board it is. Whiteboards are very clean and neat. Many schools nowadays have whiteboards. They have marker pens, blue, green, whatever colors, and it's a lot more cleaner. But still, many schools use blackboards because blackboards can be put into the wall itself. In many schools, the blackboard is not something that is hung on the wall. The wall itself is painted black and smooth so that teachers can start writing on it. It's a lot more cheaper alternative, and the chalk piece that the teachers use to write is a lot more cheaper than marker pens. Marker pens, what happens is they run out of ink every now and then they have to be thrown away, and then you need to buy it. For many schools, it's a lot more expensive to buy marker pens repeatedly. And the whiteboards also had to be purchased separately. It cannot be built into the wall itself, unlike blackboards. So there are a lot of challenges that way. So many schools still use blackboards. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to look at the challenges posed by the blackboard for teachers, for students, and a few other people also, how they suffer because of the blackboard. What happens is the dust that is released from the blackboard gets into the air, and it starts spreading in the classroom, and then slowly the dust starts coming down, and then what happens? It sits on your face, it gets into your eyes, on your eyebrows, it gets into on your lips, and when you do like this, the dust gets into your mouth. Sometimes you inhale that dust through your nose. It falls on your school uniform, it gets dusty and dirty, and it falls on your hands, and then you wipe it, it feels very rough, right? It's very uncomfortable feeling. So the chalk dust is very, it can be harmful also in the long run. It can cause respiratory problems, breathing problems, and things like that. So there are many problems that people face, especially teachers are the ones who are most affected by it because they are very close to the blackboard and they're constantly writing and wiping and they're inhaling. The next is students in the front, 1 or 2 benches, they suffer the most. And then maybe the students in the back may suffer less, but they also get to inhale. Now, in the next 5 days, we are going to go through this design thinking process. We will empathize with the problems of the teachers and the students and maybe some cleaning staff and things like that, and even parents who are indirectly affected by it. And we will come out with we'll do some research, we will empathize, and then finally we'll ideate, we'll come up with multiple solutions to solve the problem. Then we'll shortlist and pick one solution, and then we'll build a prototype, and then we will also test it. So we are going to do this exercise in the next 5 days. So starting from tomorrow, the next 5 days is this exercise. So this is an example. Of course, I'm not asking you to do this physically, but you need to understand how the steps happen. And when you understand how the steps have to be done and how to solve the problem, you can pick your own problem for the ATL Marathon, and you can apply the same steps, same techniques, same tools, and you will be able to come up with a good innovation for your ATL Marathon problem statement also. That's all you need to do. So, and I've also given some additional challenges for you. Okay, additional challenges like this. There are 2 challenges like this. One is fetching clean drinking water in rural areas, and another is the life of a paraplegic. A paraplegic is somebody who is paralyzed from the waist down. Somebody who cannot walk, they have to sit on a wheelchair and they have to struggle to move around. So there are additional challenges. You can attempt these challenges by looking at how we are solving the chalk dust problem. Similarly, you can either pick this clean drinking water problem or the life of the paraplegic problem. You can do the same steps that we are doing it, and you can also submit your challenge here. Okay. You can also take a quiz, by the way. Every page, every day we will have a quiz. You can submit your quiz, which will test your understanding of the concepts taught every day. And you can also take one of these 2 challenges and look at the chalk dust problem, how we are solving it, and do the same for these 2 problems also, and you can submit it. Okay. Or you can also take your own problem that you are attempting for the ATL Marathon, and you can submit your challenge. Basically, I can review your challenge, I can give you some feedback. We will keep this website open even after the training program, so you can come back and refer to it and learn things, because it's not, you cannot digest everything in one go. You need time to digest it. But do your best in these 7 days to absorb as much content as possible, because this WhatsApp group is going to be active for these 7 days. And during that time, I can give you the best feedback and suggestions for your problems that you are working on. Okay, so that's pretty much what I wanted to cover today. I have taken more time. Maybe we started around 4:07, I think 4:07, 4:08. It's probably more than an hour. So let me stop sharing my screen and I can take any questions that students have now. So over to Fanindra sir or Lilambika ma'am, if you can pick up any questions, and I can
Yes,
take
sir.
it.
Yes, sir. Students, you can put your questions now. And most of the questions were answered by Lilambika ma'am in the chat box, sir. And students were responding to your questions in the chat box saying, yes, sir, we have blackboards and chalk pieces were there. And few were even gave a very sad face saying that is real trouble that we are sitting in the first benches. And a few said, sir, the problem is with the green boards also.
Yes, yes, both are
Yeah,
same.
so those were the old chart comments, sir. And
Okay.
now the questions, when it comes to questions part,
Yeah.
sir, Krishna Rupak asks, sir, first we should submit our idea and then we should submit the prototype.
No, don't talk in terms of ideas in this training program. This is not about ideas. It's there's no need for submission right now. See, the ATL Marathon is a challenge which started from November 14th on Children's Day, and it has been running. And it's going to, the last day to submit your entry for the ATL Marathon is 6th of March 2022. So you have time till then to look for a problem in your own community or in your own neighborhood, in your school, whatever. Like this chalk dust problem, that is something that you can observe in your own school, in your own classroom. You can observe this chalk dust problem, right? So something like that, you need to observe some problem, you need to identify some problem that you can tackle. Then you do some research, then you ideate and come up with different ideas or solutions for solving those problems. And then you build a prototype, then you test it, and then you submit your entry on or before 6th of March. So it's not about idea. It's about what problem that you're trying to tackle. So we are not at all talking about ideas in this. We are talking about what is that problem that you're trying to solve. For example, in the next 5 days, we are going to talk about this chalk dust problem in the classroom. Similarly, can you pick one problem statement that you can observe in your school, in your home, your neighborhood, wherever, and make sure that it aligns with one of those 8 problem statements that ATL Innovation Mission has given under those 4 focus areas, and then you start solving it. So you start not with idea, but with a problem statement. So you should not say, sir, should I submit an idea? No, you don't submit an idea. This is not an idea competition. You don't submit a problem statement also. You submit an innovation. An innovation is ultimately in the form of a prototype. The innovation looks, ultimately for the outside world, it looks like a prototype, but behind the prototype, you have done a lot of homework in terms of research, understanding the problem, ideating, looking at multiple solution alternatives, finally prototyping one solution. And finally, that is the outcome. Prototype is the outcome that you finally submit. But along with the prototype, you're also going to submit something called as a research document. The research document should have a summary of all the things that you have done, right? From understanding the problem to empathizing with the needs of the users and who are those people who are affected by it. What are the different solutions that you looked at? How did you select this particular solution or idea? And how did you build the prototype? And how many prototypes did you build? What are the problems that you faced in building it? And did you actually give it to some users to use it? all the details have to be captured in your research document. Everything that you have done, that is a proof that you have really gone through the entire process of innovation. If you just show only a prototype, nobody knows what you have done, how you came to that. Is it so? So what you submit is a research document and a prototype, not ideas. Okay, I hope I've answered that question.
Sir, related to the same, we have one more question from Sark Ghosh. Sir,
Okay.
I have a doubt. Is having an idea a part of innovation?
Idea is part of the innovation. Definitely, it's one part of the innovation. And definitely in design thinking, step number 3 or stage number 3 is called ideation. In ideation, you generate a lot of ideas. Ideas for solving the problem that you have previously defined in step number 2. In step number 2, you define the problem that you want to solve. And for solving that problem, you come up with ideas. But you don't start with ideas itself. First, you need to be clear about what is the problem that you want to solve. First, you define that. And for that problem statement, you come up with ideas to solve. Yes. So ideas are part of innovation, but you don't start with ideas. You start with problem statements or a need or a desire of somebody. Okay, that's the first step. So I always see students starting with ideas. No, it's not the ideas you start with. You should start much earlier. That means you should have done some more homework before ideas come. Why did that idea come to you in the first place? That means you must have seen some need for it. Somebody has some problem, but you're not at all talking about the problem or the need. You're only talking about the idea. So you need to talk about the need first. Only if you talk about the need, somebody will be convinced about your idea. If you start directly talking about idea, people will not be convinced. They'll say, why do I need this? Then you need to go back and explain, see, if you have this problem, then my idea can help you. My prototype can solve it and things like that, right? So start with the problem statement.
Sir,
yes.
there were 2 more questions. I didn't understand the context of it, so I didn't answer those questions. So
Okay.
one question from Lakshya Agarwal says, sir, I went through the sources on the site, but still didn't get sufficient data about lack of interaction between students and teachers. Can you tell some other source from where I can analyze and research?
I'm not sure I understand. Can you unmute
Sir,
yourself
it
and
is,
speak?
sir, I went through the source given for research, but could not get sufficient information about the problem of lack of interaction between teachers and students. So the problem what Lakshya identified is lack of interaction between teachers and students.
Oh,
So for that problem, can you tell some source from which I can get more data to analyze and research about the problem?
see, as I said earlier, to do your research, there are 2 types of research, primary research and secondary research. First, you need to start with primary research before you even get to secondary research. Primary research is you want to know what are the challenges. The problem you're saying is interaction between students and teachers is not adequate or something. Is that the problem? If that is the case, then you need to talk to both some teachers as well as students to understand the problem. So what have you observed? First of all, that you need to write down and document. What is your observation? Is the teacher, are you not getting enough time with the teacher to talk to him or her and clear your doubts? Is time the constraint? Or is your teacher not approachable? Whatever it may be. What is your observation? Then you need to validate those observations by maybe you need to talk to a few other students and try to find out how they feel about it. But when you also go and talk to a teacher, the teacher may say, I'm available all the time, but no students come to me. They don't even interact with me. That's what a teacher might say. But if you talk to your friends, they may say, I'm afraid of going to the teacher. So the fear is actually the problem. So the solution is, how do you remove the fear? If you remove the fear, the interaction between students and teachers can improve. So that is one way to look at it. Okay. So you need to talk to people. You need to observe, you need to talk to people, and you need to experience things yourself. That is the primary research. If you don't get any information on Google, if you don't do secondary research, it's okay, but at least do primary research. For some kind of problems, you get more information through primary research. For some kind of problems, you get more information through secondary research. So at least try to do both, whichever gives you more information, at least do that. Yes,
So,
ma'am. So I think,
yes,
I hope I answered that.
yes, sir. Another question is, ma'am, I want to ask that if we give them the money, but they need to go to the bank and get the money out and then buy the TV, wouldn't that be acceptable? I don't understand the context of this, sir, because I joined late.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe can you, the student, can you please elaborate it further? Maybe you can put it in the chat window, or you can raise your hand and you can
Alia?
speak later.
I'll just ask to unmute her. Yes, Alia, now you can speak. Alia?
Actually, my question is that, for example, few minutes ago, sir was saying that he was giving us an example about a TV. That if I give you a TV, that is a part of my innovation, and I say you that you need 10 lakh rupees to buy that.
Alia,
Then,
your voice is not very clear.
ma'am,
Yeah, or can you type it?
okay, sir, I try to type it.
Okay, okay. Voice is very feeble. I'm not able to make out. Yesterday was better.
So actually, sir, now am I audible?
Better.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Sir, actually, I want to say that few minutes ago you were giving an example about TV only, and many students, including me, answered that no, I will not buy that TV. But sir, if you give me if you give me the money also to buy that TV, wouldn't I buy that TV? So if we provide that necessity that you can use this to fulfill my innovation, and but they need to do something for it that is easily available at their houses also, wouldn't that be acceptable? They don't need any type of expenses.
Not sure I could understand clearly. Were you able to catch the question, ma'am?
No,
No, sir.
Sir,
no,
can I
sir.
give one more example for that?
Your voice is very not so clear, Alia.
Alia, I'll just repeat what you have said. Just correct me if I go wrong. So what Alia says is that she has the innovation for a problem, and for that solution, the household things will be fine. So is that okay if they can use if I give the solution and they can use their own material kind of thing? That is what I understood of what she is saying. Am I right, Alia?
Sir, actually, it's just that while sir was giving that example, he asked us that we need to give him 10 lakh rupees for a TV. But now, if I take an example of a video which has virtual reality in it, so sir, many students, including me, don't have a virtual reality setup and classes for that. But if I tell the users that you can make it using your household materials and that are available, and I tell them how to make it, so wouldn't that be acceptable, or still the innovation would be not an innovation?
No, it can still be an innovation. I mean, what your solution is basically telling people how to build it on their own. Is that what your solution is?
No, sir. Sir, my solution is actually the video that has virtual reality in it. But many people don't have the virtual reality setup. So first, I tell them that how you can build your own virtual reality glasses to experience my solution from
Sure.
household materials.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so you're ultimately what you're submitting is a video.
Yes, sir. So this is just an example.
Okay, got it. So let's say that you're submitting a video as your, it's basically a learning material. Your prototype is basically a learning material. It's a teaching or a learning material, right?
No, sir.
That
No,
is
sir.
what you're submitting. And it addresses a need or a problem. Students or somebody wants to know how to use virtual reality. And for that need, you are saying that you don't have to buy fancy headsets, but you can build your own headset at home, or you can create your own virtual reality experiences at home. And what your innovation is basically an e-learning material.
Yes,
And
sir.
that can be an innovation too.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
As
That was
long as
my
it has a clear need that you're addressing somebody's need, and you know how to build it, and somebody is willing to pay for it and buy it, it can be an innovation.
okay, sir. Thank you, sir. That was my doubt.
Yeah.
Sir, we have Sarthak Ghosh asking, I want to show you a creative thing. I have made it from foil paper. So he wanted to present it, sir. He's asking for the permission.
Okay, but talk about the problem or what is the need that you're trying to address. We are not looking at solutions right now. We're not looking at what you have built at this stage. Maybe we can do that at a later stage. But right now, the focus is more on what is the need that you're trying to address. So if you can say that first and then show it, it's fine. Because we want you to make sure that students understand that they are addressing a need or a problem or a challenge or a desire or want somebody has. They're not just building some science project. Otherwise, in science project, you are just building something. That's it. We are not. This is not a science project competition. In science project, you can just show some concepts. You can build prototype of anything, but most students don't understand what is innovation. That is why we are stressing, putting a lot of stress on problem solving and innovation at this stage. Okay, so Sarthak, can you show that? Show the need for your solution.
Sarthak, you can speak. You are unmuted. Oh, again you muted yourself. Please unmute yourself, Sarthak. Yeah, you are unmuted. Please plug out the headphones and speak. Disconnect it and speak.
Actually, sir,
Yeah. Now we can hear you.
actually, sir, actually, sir,
Go ahead, speak.
Sarthak, we can hear you. Okay, again you muted. Don't get panic. It's okay. You can speak.
Or you can type it in the chat window also. Okay, let's give him some time, sir.
Yes, sir. So few of them asking for portal link, sir.
Portal link, if you have registered, you will get it. If you're not registered, please register. Then I'll give you access.
No, not access, sir. Just the link of today, Day-2. They're asking in chat box. If possible, can you share it in chat box, sir?
Why? I've already shared it in the WhatsApp group, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. If students are on the WhatsApp group, I've already shared it today morning.
Yes, Aditya. Hope your the portal link will be available in WhatsApp group. And also, Samrit is asking post the recordings. Yeah, after the session, YouTube link will be posted again in the WhatsApp group. Yes, sir. We
Sir,
have a
also there is a question on how to make a team, sir.
Okay. Ma'am, would you like to answer that?
Yes, sir. Children, you all are there in the group already. So if you don't have a friend, then you can post in the group and find out if anybody else is there who is, joined in the group as an individual, and talk to them and then form a team for yourself. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
And
that's the
you cannot
easiest.
participate as an individual. So please find out a friend or a team member in the WhatsApp group itself. See, already there is Aditya who is asking how to make a team. Isha Aradhya who is asking. So you both can probably make a team.
And also you can discuss the problems you have, and like-minded people can pair up.
Yes.
See, here you can also learn how to market yourself, market your skills, market your talents, market your ideas, many things you can market. So if you want to put it up on a WhatsApp group, I would suggest first you introduce yourself, say your name, class, and school. Then you can say what is the skills that you have and what is the problem statement that you are interested in addressing, whether it is education, healthcare, nutrition, whatever. And then you can say, I would like to work on these kind of problems. If anybody is interested, let me know. So if you just put out a message like this, somebody may respond. So apart from that, we can try and create a Google form. Hope you hear me now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So we can try and create a Google form where all the students who are interested in forming teams can actually submit their request, and then we will make that list available to everybody. So you can look at yourself and you can talk to each other, and then you can form teams. The only requirement is you need to have at least one student from a school that has an ATL. You cannot form a team if you don't have any ATL in your school. So again, we will make sure that in the form we'll ask that question: does your school have an ATL or doesn't have an ATL? So at least make sure that you talk to somebody who has an ATL in their school. Okay, so that way I think we should be able to sort out that problem. Otherwise, please talk to teachers or principal in your own schools, respective schools, and seek their help. Or maybe some of your teachers or the principal may know other schools which have an ATL, so they can provide a connect for you. Maybe some of your parents also may know. Air Force School Hebal has an ATL. I think Kendriya Vidyalaya, which is in IASC campus or next to that, that also has an ATL, right now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And Panindra Sir School, Nagarjuna Model School, Kadapa, that also has an ATL. Maybe
Even
students, if you have an
KVDRDO.
ATL, KVDRDO, yes, exactly, they also have a ATL. And students, if you
Academy
know
has
of Vidyashilp, yes, Vidyashilp Academy in Bangalore has an ATL. Students from Delhi, Meghalaya, Haryana, if you have an ATLs, please put it in the chat window. Delhi, yes, Alia Gupta says she has an ATL in her school. Fantastic. Which school are you? Okay, ML Khanna DAV Public School. Okay, that's your school. That has an ATL. Okay. So, Galia, are you looking for any team members? Yeah, alias, are you looking for any team members to join your team? If so, you can let other people know. Oh, you already have one. Okay. So you can
Tathagat is
have,
saying, uh, Tathagat is saying that he's not able to register. Tathagat, where are you not able to register?
yeah, see, for the ATL Marathon, you don't have to register right away. You can register as well as submit on or before 6th of March. So there is a link to the ATL Marathon website. If you go to our portal, I've already given the link for you where to find the ATL Marathon website and how to register. Links are already provided. If you just click on it, it'll ask you for your phone number, and you have to put an OTP. Then you can register, or you can also put your email address and phone number and register, or you can also sign in with your Google account and register. There are multiple ways to register to the ATL Marathon website. Portal link again. Okay, somebody is asking portal link again. Okay, this is the portal link. I've just shared it. So if you have registered, if you have given your email address before, I would have given you access. In case you don't have access to the portal, please message me on the WhatsApp group. I'll share the, I'll give you access. Share your Gmail ID, I'll give you access. But are there any questions related to today's topic? What is idea? What is invention, innovation? What is ideation, research,
Sir,
design thinking?
Paras Yadav wanted to speak about his views regarding the drivers facing problems in emergency. Paras, I gave you to unmute. Please unmute and you can speak, Paras.
Thank you, sir, for giving me chance. And sir, I want to share that sometimes the car locks from interior and we are inside the car. So driver face the problems coming out from the car. That's why I thought that we have to make a project related to the problem. We can make the project with the help of vibrating motor, which will when it will start, then the glass will break. And I know that it has been made earlier, but sir, we have innovation is for innovating idea. I thought that the cars like Tata, we we should say them that to to fit the project inside the car, not to sell in the market individually.
Mhm. Okay, keep working on it. In the training program, you learn how to approach your complete problem solving and researching, how to do it in a methodical way that we are going to teach you from tomorrow onwards. Please go through the entire process so that your idea becomes stronger. You have a clear research to back up your idea, and you have a good solution to address the problem, and you build a good prototype also. Is that fine? So go through the training and then you will be a lot more clear. So the idea looks interesting, but you need to go through the entire journey, entire process. Okay, so Mahalakshmi, I'm just reading your message here. I told you about our idea and research about it. I did do it. Found a lot more material and all the tech behind it, but I don't have the skills for it. So my team has created a dummy model or the prototype explaining it. I'm hoping you guide, at least give you of the skills. That's why yesterday I told you that what you're attempting is requires a lot of skills that probably is quite involved. And I'm not sure whether you can acquire those skills in just a matter of few days or a few weeks. It may take you many months or many weeks or many months to acquire those kind of skills, if not years. So if you submit a dummy prototype for ATL Marathon, I don't think that is so valuable. You need to focus and narrow down to at least show something useful, something that works. And you need to build a prototype, as I said earlier, build a prototype with the skills that you currently have or something that you can acquire in the next week's time. If it requires you to acquire a new skill that will take you many weeks to acquire, you will not be able to build a prototype. Okay, so I don't know what I can assist you. Please connect with me on WhatsApp. Let's talk about it. I am not sure what skills you're referring to. Let's discuss more. Okay, but in case if it is too complex, you will not be able to build it. So that's why I'm suggesting that you may have to relook at your problem statement and your innovation also. You should be ready for that if you want to submit an entry to ATL Marathon. Anything more than that, you can keep working. You don't have to drop this idea. You can continue to work on it. Maybe next year ATL Marathon, if you have worked sufficiently, you can submit it at that time. So we should never start with a competition in mind. So then you will be in a hurry and there'll be very little time to complete something. Rather than that, start working, pick up some good problem to solve and start working irrespective of any competition. That is how you actually build your skills. And if some competition comes when you are ready, then it's good. Otherwise, just don't rush through and try to submit something which for which you have not done sufficient work. Always acquire the skills first. Build something, solve some problem. Don't worry about competition. Competition should be secondary. First is you acquiring skills. Because in the long run, it's not the competition. Competition will go and come and go today and tomorrow. But in the long run, you should develop the skills and competence. That's the life skills for you. If you learn the skill, it can come in handy for you all throughout your life. Entire life, you can use the skill. Okay. Are there any others? Anything else, or should we wrap up?
I hope that's all, sir. We don't have anything.
Okay. Okay. So I'm assuming that all of you have understood the difference between the importance of doing research in today's session. And I hope you have also understood the difference between idea and in innovation, and the importance of doing ideation to come up with a lot of ideas to solve the problem, and how to build a prototype. What are the different types of prototypes? And I hope you have understood what design thinking is at an essence. Even if you don't understand all the details, don't worry. That's what we're going to do in the next 5 days. We'll understand slowly, step by step. My only request to you is make sure that you participate in these next 5 days without fail. If you miss even one step, you may not understand the next step, because many of these steps are interconnected. Because you cannot come on the solution day and say, sir, I want to solve this. And if you have not even come up with a problem statement, the solution doesn't make any sense. So you need to attend these mentoring sessions and go through the content on the online portal step by step in the right sequence. They're all connected with each other. Innovation is a long run process. So it has a lot of connections and interlinkages. So you cannot randomly jump on day 6 or day 7 and say, okay, now I'm going to build prototype. It's not going to happen if you're not done the homework in the previous days. So please work on that. And if you have any more questions, feel free to ask in the WhatsApp group also. We will come back again at 4 p.m. tomorrow. Okay, so until then, have a good evening and happy learning. And thanks for attending today's session. Thank you, everyone.